Well, if you've been listening today, you know what time it is. Time for round 3. Ring the bell with the RAAD Life as our resident raconteur, our community storyteller, tells the story, talks to the people who put themselves on the line this year to run for local city office. Welcome back, Rod Gantos.
Hey, Paul. Thanks for accommodating the hat trick today with 3 people running for office.
I think
But
it's more than a hat trick. It's quite a trick. Who gets to talk to these people? I see the names on the signs, but I don't know who they are. You're giving us that chance.
okay. You know that I'm here to educate you. That's really why I'm doing
Is
this.
that
You
it?
know, I just
Okay.
want you to perform.
Well, you got a
But
cool guy.
you
You got a jazz artist. You got Miles Davis on today here.
know, if you're gonna do that, you should be playing some Miles Davis in the background. Right? You just don't do that.
Yeah.
Right. But no, it's really important because just like you were saying, I don't know who these people are. I don't think people that are running for office that are daring to be of service, to step up and actually put themselves in, in a race to serve their communities. It's not enough to just have a forum where they get like 1 minute to answer a question, and it's a yes or no answer or like something like that. It's like, how is that supposed to inform the voter or have an informed voter and engaged voter that, that is going to basically make a wise decision and a selection that they're going to have to live with for 4 years? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. These forum format is, I mean, we stop doing debates. Okay, give me a good debate over a forum any day. And the other thing is, it's a way for me to recognize and acknowledge these people that are candidates that are basically stepping in, whether they're running for re-election or, like in the case of our guest right now, Miles Patricola, who's basically running for a district in his community in Newport Beach. They're actually, it's a way for me to say thank you, because I know this is kind of a joke, Miles. When I tell Paul about somebody running for office, he goes, "I run away from office." Right? So it's, you guys are willing to step up, be of service. In some cases, it's motivated by grassroots involvement in a community. Something happens, somebody had something, kids, safety issue, traffic issue, noise issue, whatever, and it engages people. Whatever it is, the fact that you guys are willing to step up, I wanted to say thank you, because that's not something that everybody does for a whole multitude of reasons. Um, so I appreciate you also taking the time, because we're so close to actually, election day. You guys are very super busy right now. So I appreciate you taking the time to jump on to for us to basically provide that opportunity for people that are listening. So, Miles, take a minute and let people know a bit about you, because you got an interesting background too. And I want you to also then share with people how you found your way to basically now running for office in District 7 in Newport Beach.
Okay, well, Rad, Paul, thank you both very much for having me on the show today. And thank you for the kind words. It's not often, as you say, that people are appreciative of someone stepping up to serve their community. Most of the time, people ask me, what's wrong with me? Why am I doing something crazy like running for office? And I
I,
think
I
that's
was trying to be
actually,
nice.
yes, it is. It's a good change of pace. But, you have to be a little crazy to do this work. It's a prerequisite for the position. So a little bit about me and my background. I have been living in Newport Beach my entire life. I did live in Denver for 2 years, but Newport Beach is my hometown. My family has owned and operated a local business here, Rothschild's Restaurant, over on PCH for the last 47 years. My parents were the owners
Frequented a
for,
number of times. For those who have not been there, you need to go check it out. Yeah.
yeah, it's a great location, best Italian food in the world. And my parents were the owners there for 25 years, so it was the second home for me growing up in Newport. I got my first job there, folding napkins, refilling the ice bin behind the bar. Started bussing tables, worked my way up to be a waiter, and I've been serving the community my entire life. I used to serve tables. I started serving as a community volunteer, doing little projects here and there after school. I've done a number of things as a volunteer, and I transitioned into doing politics as a profession right out of college. started working on a congressional campaign back in 2018 for a UCI professor who didn't make it out of the primary, but he was a scientist and a teacher, and I thought it was good that we had someone with a STEM background who was running for Congress, because I think we have plenty of lawyers, but we don't have enough teachers, not enough scientists. We'd love to get more diversity in our representative government.
Did you go to UCI for your college?
I went to Orange Coast College, and
Orange Coast. Okay.
yeah, I did a lot of voter registration at UCI, so I'm very familiar with the campus and some of the classes, some of the teachers, but I have not attended school there myself. It's a great school.
Who was the candidate, Miles?
His name was Hans Kierstead. He was a Canadian fellow, and he was a fun guy. He was really nice. He lost by like 120 votes in the primary, which is just a small sliver of a fraction. So it was a tough loss. Worked on his campaign for a couple of months, no days off. You don't get days off when you're working on a campaign. And it's been the same way for my campaign. Every day I'm doing something. And after we didn't make it through the primary, I stayed with politics, started doing voter registration, worked on a few different nonprofit organizations with humanitarian-based groups, such as the Human Rights Campaign and the Nature Conservancy. I was an office manager for a campaign that was focused on collecting signatures for ballot measure initiatives, trying to qualify different measures to be on the ballot in November. And this is my first time running for office myself. I'm 31 years old, very proud of the campaign that I'm running, about all of the things that I've been able to achieve on the campaign trail. It's been a big learning experience for me. You were talking about some of the forums that the candidates go through. Those were very stressful. You're going up on stage trying to answer questions. They give you 90 seconds, sometimes 60, to condense a really complex issue. And you want to elaborate past that 90-second barrier, but you can only express so much in a confined amount of time. So it is something of a talent and of a skill to try to develop, but I'm happy to have the opportunity to
I'm a little old school, Miles. I don't like speed dating, right? So it's like for me, I'd like to get to know who I'm basically being asked to date for 4 years, right? I mean, it's like it's a little bit better that way.
Yeah, no, and I also would love to have more of a debate, an actual competition of ideas, a friendly debate. I think they'd be good to get back to a friendly competition instead of what we have right now.
Maybe one day we'll get back to civil discourse.
Yes.
Right.
No, actually, now that you mention it, that's one of the things that I tell people. I want to run for public office so that I can make politics boring again. Because I think that it would be great for us to get back to a day. That is
the best slogan I have heard throughout the whole cycle. That is Paul, we need to trademark that. That is the best slogan I've heard the whole year.
That's the reason right there. Vote for us. I'll make it boring.
I want to run for office so that I can make politics boring again. Bless you. Amen, brother. That's a great one.
Yeah. So that's it's kind of me in a nutshell. I'd love to expand on some of the specific issues that I'm focused on for the campaign.
Yes,
so
please. But before you do, Miles, I want to ask you something. So, did you go to school for like political science, or what was the appeal for you? Like, how did you find yourself into that? Because you're obviously starting it very early on. Well, like it could have been something that was, based on the candidate you're representing that got you engaged. I'm just curious, what was it that drew you to this?
Oh, it's a good question. So in college, I studied sociology, which is effectively the study of how different parts of our society influence others, how the crime rate influences the economy, just how there's all of these different overlaps and ripple effects within our society, and how everything's kind of interconnected. And so politics for me was kind of a natural transition because the study of society and representing people in that society, that seemed like that those were, things that matched. And for me, I'm pretty comfortable talking with people about some complex issues and trying to make it so that it is not a combative argument about, well, I'm right, you're wrong. It's more about listening to people and being open to the possibility that you could be wrong. I tell people all the time, maybe I'm wrong. Let's find out. And if I am wrong and you help me improve, then we're both winning, right? So I don't look at being wrong as a negative. I look at it as an opportunity for everyone in the conversation to grow.
Yeah, we need more people that think that way, Miles. Thank you for doing that. Absolutely, 100%. So stepping out from behind the camera, so to speak,
Yeah.
to being a candidate, right? Was there a particular issue that drove you to basically take that step from behind the curtain, or was it just because it's your hometown, basically?
Sure. So I decided to run for city council because there are a number of different issues that I'm concerned with as a young person that I feel need to be paid more attention to, and that there needs to be a representative who is more interested in addressing those problems and coming up with realistic solutions. So one of the big ones is climate change. That I'm running as a Democrat in a conservative city. Newport Beach is, for the most part, a Republican city. And I don't see a lot of people on our city council being concerned about the larger storms that are adding more tidal surge waves that are impacting our coastal communities, because we're getting bigger storms, more frequent storms on a regular basis. And we're starting to see flooding on Balboa Island, and parts of the peninsula are going to be exposed to flooding in the near future. So I think now is the time to make long-term investments in protecting those communities. And I'm also concerned.
How's it affecting how's it affecting your coastline in terms of your beaches and your sand? Because I know we have that problem for multitudes of reasons, but we have that problem in San Clemente, for example, where I live. Are you guys having the depletion of shoreline as well?
Yes, we are, and we are addressing it, but I think that some of these solutions that are being offered are more band-aid solutions, not really long-term
Not
solutions.
sustainable
So
long-term solutions.
exactly, a good example is we added about a foot of concrete to the seawall that surrounds Balboa Island, but that extra concrete, that's not going to push back the tide. That's not going to protect these communities from tidal surge waves that are crashing over the seawall. And it's an acknowledgement that the problem is real, because if there wasn't an issue, why would you need that extra concrete? But
Right.
just doing a little bit to address the problem. If we just keep adding more and more concrete to the seawall, that's actually going to make the problem worse, because then it starts to dig away at
We
the
have a
sand.
we have a problem
There's
in
a
general of addressing our challenges in a very myopic way, and not really looking for long-term solutions that are
yes,
sustainable. And that literally translates to better fiscal responsibility, because if you're
yeah,
constantly putting capital reinvestment into trying to continue to fix a problem because you didn't think about long-term proactive solutions, it's just more cost. And then it just, to your point, when you're saying you're student of sociology, it's all interlinked. I mean,
yes.
my first degree was in economics. It's all interlinked. You can't just talk about micro. You got to talk about macro. You got to talk about the whole picture. And if you're not, then you're going to find yourself in trouble. It's just a matter of time.
Exactly. And, I've heard from people in the community who have asked me, when I bring this issue to their attention, they'll say, well, you're knocking on my door, but I don't live anywhere near the coast. So why should I care about tidal surge waves or losing these coastal communities? And I'll explain to them that property taxes are the single highest source of revenue for our city. So if we were to lose Balboa Island and the peninsula, which both have multi-million-dollar homes and a lot of them, we're losing all of that tax revenue year over year. So it's going to be a long-term net loss for our city's budget. So making a long-term investment early before we see property values dip, that's the best plan.
Yeah, see,
And
it's kind of funny, Miles, because what you're talking about is going to require maybe a measure, maybe, and you were just saying that you basically worked in a situation where you're basically evaluating measures, right? You're going to need a measure. The measure is going to probably have a big price tag number associated with it, but it's something that's basically based on a long-term solution that is thought through, versus the taxes death by 1,000 taxes that are smaller, that
yes,
are constantly going to be charged and charged, and you're going to keep going back to that well in order to get that wall to go up 1 foot, 1 foot, 1 foot, 1 foot, instead of biting the bullet that one time. But that's a harder sell.
It is. It is more of a difficult hill to climb, but that's part of the reason why I'm interested in serving our cities because I'm not seeing anyone else trying to climb that hill. I'm not seeing anyone trying to look out at the tide and seeing, okay, yeah, we've got a massive wave coming in over the horizon, and it's far away, and maybe it's not going to be an immediate issue, but it will be a problem for people in my generation who would enjoy living in Newport Beach. And we want to make sure that everyone has that opportunity in the long term. So it is a difficult issue to try to earn support for, but I do think that we need people, young people especially, who can speak to this issue and try to illustrate what reasonable concrete solutions could be. No pun intended there with the concrete.
No, I picked up on that. Very, very well done. Very, very well delivered. What else is on your radar, Miles, as far as things that are basically engaging you here?
Yes, so one of the biggest issues in our city for public safety is the rise in e-bike popularity among young people. And it's something that a lot of neighboring cities are experiencing as well. So
Yeah.
we don't have enough police to monitor every kid in the city. And there are some kids who are misbehaving both on the road and on the sidewalk with their conduct on e-bikes that can go sometimes between 30 and 40 miles an hour. So pedestrians are concerned because they don't want to be run over, and the drivers on the road are concerned because they don't want to be responsible for an incident involving a kid on an e-bike who gets into some type of a traffic accident.
Yeah.
And tragically, we have had 3 fatalities this year in Orange County involving teens riding on e-bikes, and that doesn't include all of the teens who were severely injured and hospitalized. And we're lucky that we haven't had such a tragedy happen in Newport Beach, but I'm concerned that we could if we don't take steps to prevent that from happening. And what I think we should do is add a new technology called geofencing. It's a radar system. It would allow us to designate specific areas in our city where we do not want e-bikes to be. So if an e-bike were to enter one of these spaces, it would turn the e-bike off, make it back into a regular bike again. And we can also use the same technology to impose speed limitations. So the bike wouldn't be able to travel past maybe 10, 15 miles an hour. We'd have to have an expert come in and tell us where these places should be and what their recommendations for the limitations
Well,
are.
and Miles, that's assuming that they're actually even in the bike lane or on the road, because I've seen e-bikes on sidewalks near schools
Yes.
because it's just more convenient to cross cross the traffic light, and especially at like 8 o'clock in the morning, get on the sidewalk, and now you're on the sidewalk, and now your pedestrians basically, it's an obstacle course, and it's also for the safety of the person that's on the e-bike. Like but you're the first person I've heard bring up the conversation about geofencing and how it could actually be activated. And you're going to face, I'm sure, rights and freedoms and all this stuff, but it's going to require some leadership that's going to look out for the overall common good and at least present that as a possible option versus just burying your head in the sand like an ostrich and say, hopefully it'll go away sometime. It never went away with skateboards. It ain't going to go away with electric bikes.
Right. And I'll admit to you that I do have some level of bias on this issue because I've seen geofencing work when I was living in Denver. They had it over there because they have a lot of rental scooters that are electric scooters that people are renting when they're a tourist in town. And they were using geofencing to prevent tourists from going into certain areas within the Denver metro area. So I know that it works. And part of the reason I'm trying to recommend that solution is because I think it will work. But I'm very open to using a multilateral approach to solve the issue. If we need to get a ticketing system in place, a licensing program, some type of training course that we have.
You're presenting. I mean, the thing that's wonderful about this, Miles. And by the way, let me just say, I'm going to thank you for another thing right now. I'm going to thank you for the fact that you're the last interview I'm doing for this cycle, right? And it's very inspiring to actually end with you. Seriously.
Thank you.
Right. And Paul will probably echo that in a minute. But the thing about it is you're actually not only presenting a solution to engage and encourage conversation, Because if somebody doesn't present that, if literally we're just going to basically be paralyzed by the challenge of this and worried about all the things that could go wrong with it, and then if we're going to present it and say, well, yeah, we have a problem, but then not present at least a conversation, and I'm not going to hold you to what you're presenting as being anything more than an initiation of conversation, but at least you're showing up with something that not only could work, you're not inventing the wheel, not reinventing the wheel, you know that there's like case study on the fact that it is applicable, it has been put into operation, and to your point, being open enough to have a multi-layered conversation about this, and the more people that are having engaged in a coming up with a solution, the more likely the output is going to be better anyway.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I'm hearing from people when I'm explaining what the problem is and what I'm recommending for the solution. I'm hearing from people who sometimes identify as libertarian, that they don't want the government to be encroaching on their
Don't tell
freedoms.
me what to do in
I
anything,
hear
right?
that. Yeah, I understand that, and that's a respectful viewpoint to have. And I want to be respectful of everyone's concerns. So if people think that geofencing is overreaching, we'll have to find a middle ground solution. But
And
what I want to
could
do
be
is address the
it
problem
could
and
be an
solve it.
adjustable
So
solution. It could also be an adjustable solution. It could be that you put in geofencing, for example,
yeah,
but you adjust it to where, because we all know, especially in coastal cities, you have a higher propensity of traffic and tourism, during the summer months, for example, or, when you, in your case, in Corona del Mar, you have the Christmas walk, right? Like
right.
you probably don't want to have e-bikes on the sidewalks during the Christmas walk in
No,
Corona del Mar. So it's not necessarily an absolute, and it's really sad because not only have we forgotten how to have good conversation about alternative points of view, which we need to get back to, and it's a muscle like any other muscle. If we don't exercise it, then we lose the usability of it. But we also have become not only siloed, but we now basically we live in absolutes, black and white. And I'm not even picking either side of the aisle, right? I mean, it's just a sad state of affairs that we are much better than. And if we lose the ability to communicate, if we're not communicating, and I mean genuine communication, not talking at each other, but talking to one another, we absolutely have nothing. We have no chance in even getting anywhere.
absolutely. Yeah, I agree completely that our ability to speak with each other has been diminished over time. And I think that there's been some political motivations for why that happens because of our
Of
two-party
course it is.
system.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean,
That,
it's like why don't we talk about peaceful solutions for stuff, but we really want to have division and conflict? Well, because there's money in division and conflict. There's money in war. There's no profit in peace. There's no profit in getting along because nobody can use that as a wedge issue or a way to divide us. And but we're kind of sick of, I mean, I can speak for myself, but I don't think I'm unique in saying that I'm kind of sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I'm sick and tired of the chaos. And if all you're gonna do is send me negative flyers that look like some leftover reject from a Halloween catalog, right? Because of the color palette that's on it, then I don't even really want to know what you're for. But my guess is you're not telling me anything that you're for. You're probably telling me everything you're against. So
yeah,
why should I be voting for you? I mean, this is what I'm telling you. This conversation, seriously, and I don't know you. It's the first time we're talking, right? It's refreshing to actually not only end on the series, which we probably have interviewed 15 people, and they're all great, but to end with somebody who's not only inspiring, and I'm jaded. I'll be the first one to admit I'm a jaded SOB, right? When it comes to stuff. But to have somebody that's inspiring, and not only inspiring and engaged and wanting to be of service, but to also have the willingness to come up with proposed solutions, to at least initiate a conversation on something, right? And to be open to say, maybe I'm wrong, maybe, but if I talk to you, I'm going to get better at what I can basically do. So
yeah.
congratulations, my friend. I mean, you're half my age, man. And it's like, I'm telling you, you're freaking inspiration. Seriously.
Thank you. That's very kind of you to say. I appreciate that. It's
Yeah.
flattering.
I mean, I'm not, I have no reason to basically compliment you if it's not true. So that's awesome. And it's got nothing to do with the quality of Italian food, by the way, at your family's restaurant, because it's phenomenal too. So,
Thanks.
what other things? Electric bikes, the coastal situation. What else we got on our list here?
Well, there is a big problem with the people who are dealing with housing insecurity. And right now, there are problems in all of the cities in Orange County who are dealing with
Sure.
homelessness. So I think that what we need to do going forward is address homelessness on a regional scale instead of
My God,
having one
have you
city
been listening to
solutions.
my other shows, Miles?
I didn't do my research at all before I came on today. I haven't
Okay,
seen
that's
any other
fine.
shows.
Because Paul, is he not echoing what I've been saying?
He is
Paul's not.
he's reading off the
Where have you?
RAD
So
playbook here. He's reading off the RAD Life
is
playbook.
that's not my. Have I not been saying this to everybody? And stop calling it affordable housing. Start calling it proximity housing, walkable communities. Workforce housing is even a little bit of a negative. Just absolutely, it requires regional solutions. You know who started us down this path, Miles? He's right up the street from you. Is the guy who's currently mayor of Costa Mesa, which I don't know if you know him, John Stevens.
Okay.
John, okay, John Stevens said to me when we were having a conversation with him. He's running for re-election. He's current mayor, and he said to me, Costa Mesa is surrounded by 5 communities, other cities, right? In order for him to basically do something, and he has a good working relationship, for example, with some people in Newport Beach and other places, but he doesn't have the luxury of basically being siloed in his thinking. And that's what started me thinking, yes, absolutely, we need regional solutions. We need regional solutions for the homeless situation. We need regional solution for affordability of housing. You're a person who's born and raised in that community, right? You've got the ability because of your family's business. I'm assuming you're just a little bit in a different situation, but you're able to stay in that community. For as you start your life, you have a different situation, but a lot of people don't. And we're losing those people that have a vested interest in serving their community, just like you are, by not providing options for them to stay in there. The future leadership of Corona Del Mar, future leadership of these communities, the best person to basically be in a position to step up and be in a service role in a city council, for example, is a person who has a DNA connection with the community.
Absolutely. And if I could kind of add on to one of the
Yeah,
motivations for why I decided to run for office is because
yeah,
I don't see enough compassion for the homelessness population in our city and in Orange County regionally, because there are some people on city council, without naming names, who see the homeless people as an eyesore and not as people. And I think that we need to change that mindset, that we need to address homelessness from a place of compassion, understanding that these are real people who are dealing with real issues. And we can't come up with a one size fits all solution for each person. We need
I,
to figure out what their individual contributing factors are for why they became homeless. If they are dealing with substance abuse, then they need treatment. If they are dealing with a mental health issue, they need to have customized care, because mental health, that covers a pretty wide variety of different issues. So
absolutely.
you can't just
Yeah,
solve that with
I'll
one
add
thing.
I'll add a couple more things to your plate here to think about when it
Sure.
comes to that situation. First of all, you touched on a very important thing. We need to individually deal with this. We cannot just basically mass produce a solution, okay? Because there are some people, to be fair to those who basically look at it as being an inconvenience and an eyesore or whatever, that it's why are we even dealing with this? We should just basically, you know, forget about this, and just put them all on a bus and send them to some other city. You can't do that. And but there are some that don't want to necessarily maybe be helped currently, maybe in the future, maybe not. Who knows, right? It is there are some of that, to be fair. But you also have people that may be homeless because they've had one medical bill too much and they're a senior and they basically lost their house. You may
Yeah.
have people that are basically single moms that are basically all of a sudden, as a result of a divorce or something, find themselves. And here's the thing that nobody talks about. But I know for a fact, like for example in San Clemente, that some of the people we have that are homeless or have been homeless in the past are people that are actually residents of San Clemente. These are people that are not from somewhere else. They are not the us and them. They are an us.
Yes.
But you need to take the time to engage with them. You can't just basically be top down. And sadly, for a number of reasons, traditionally, we have tried to solve this problem that way. And obviously, we have been very successful, right? So why should we look at alternative ways of dealing with it? And I'm being completely sarcastic because it doesn't work that way. So not only do they not fit this one size fits all definition that people want to use, not only are they basically could be, the old couple that are down the street that now basically that we've known, and now basically they find themselves, without their home because they basically got too much of medical costs. Not only is that the case, but they could be also citizens of the community.
Yeah. And like you said, they could just be down on their luck. They could have been one medical
Yeah.
bill too many. And for those people, I think that it would be fantastic if we were to create a job incentive program for business owners to hire people who are homeless, who are dealing with housing insecurity, who are currently living at some of the shelters that we have in Orange County, because we need to help these people compete in a very competitive job market if we are going to
Yeah.
help them get their life back on track, back towards stability. And if our cities were to pay for a portion of their paycheck for a set period of time, make it somewhat similar to a paid internship, maybe 4 to 6 months. I'm not sure what the exact number would be, but create an incentive program to encourage business owners to hire people who are homeless so that they can get their lives back to normal, so that they are not trapped in this revolving door scenario where they're just being moved around from one shelter to the next without being able to climb their way back out of the hole. So
Yeah,
I speak
most
from
people
a
in that
place of,
situation that really
yeah,
are motivated and interested, they don't want to hand out. They need to hand up.
exactly. Yes, I
Right.
love that phrase. I've been using that quite frequently. And I speak from a place of experience because when I was managing an office in Denver, there was a lot of people who were dealing with housing insecurity, a lot of people who were living in their car. And I was giving them interviews, I was training them, I was hiring them to do the job, and I was trying my best to work with their schedule to keep them on our staff because it was difficult to make sure that everyone always had the amount of days that they were planning to come into work, and they might have to make up time here and there. But I have a lot of compassion for people who are dealing with those issues. I understand that they are very complex, that one size fits all solutions will never work, and that we
Yeah.
need to also increase the number of people that we have on our staff. I can't speak to other cities, but I know Newport Beach has only 2 full-time staff members dedicated to homelessness. We have one case manager and one homelessness liaison. And that is simply not enough staff to deal with all of the individual stories,
It's a
individual
catch
cases.
22, Miles. It's a catch 22. If we assign more people to the role, we're basically admitting that we have a problem. If we don't assign the people to the role, then we can pretend that we don't have a problem. I mean, let's just call it like it is, right?
Sure.
I'm kind of like, we all know how these games go, right? The thing about it too is you also, just like we were talking about a minute ago about the e-bikes, you're presenting an opportunity to have a conversation because as a business owner, as a person that basically, especially if you're in the service industry, we all know what happened after COVID. People are having a hard time finding people to work,
Yeah.
right? And so if somebody was to lead an effort, whether it's a nonprofit, whether it's a city nonprofit partnership, whatever it is that is, but that's motivated to find common ground where it's a win-win for people. You could basically be providing an incentivization to the businesses that then also basically benefits a person who is down on their luck right now, that is motivated and actually basically improving their lot in life, right?
Right.
And you could easily, and I'm not saying it's going to be in every single case, but it's not far-fetched to think that you're maybe developing a loyal person that is now basically going to be involved in a business that the business benefits from, and then that basically the business stays in the town because they're basically getting some sort of benefits from the city, and it's a win-win. And then also the city claims creatively we are dealing with a situation that universally everybody's challenged by.
Yes.
But
And
it requires leadership that's willing to actually let go of the side of the safety of the side of the pool and venture into maybe some uncharted territory and not be so worried about whether they are going to basically be able to retain their seat in elected office.
exactly. Yeah, that there's a lot of politics at play on this. And I understand that it is a difficult issue to address, but I am concerned that there are not enough people on the Newport Beach City Council who are trying to come up with creative solutions to tackle this problem head on instead of trying to kick the can down the road, because it isn't a problem for them, it's a problem for the homeless people.
Well, and you know what? Not be jaded. But if I kick the can down the road, maybe I can run on it as an issue when I basically come to for my next reelection.
Yeah, yeah, that's a very political mindset. You should consider running for office one day.
No, no, that's the reason why I will never run for office because this gaming, this thing is just this life is too freaking short, man. It's like it's crazy. Like I would rather basically be in a position where I could have a legacy as small an impact as it may be, where we've done some good. And if
Yeah,
you help one person out of a situation like that, a program is worth it in my eyes. And I think you have a lot more people that will you can basically have buy into that as something to try, not to say basically that's it. You're committing yourself, your children, nobody's going to change this program, but at
hmm,
least to try. Because here's the situation. We've been speaking the same language about this for decades.
yeah.
And obviously, we've been super successful, right? In the way that we have chosen to proceed with this. No, we have not. So try something different for God's sake. Maybe it'll actually lead to a better outcome for that one person, for the two persons, right? Claim victory on that at least. Versus we got a
Absolutely.
problem that we just keep passing on like our legacy is our problems. And like I said, to be honest, there are people that will basically not solve a problem because they want to run on it next time around.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm not going to be one of those people. I'm hoping that we can fix all the problems in first Newport, Orange County, California, then the world's, and hopefully I can retire and go back to something else with my life after we've fixed all the problems in the world. I can
Yeah,
figure out
you
something
my
else to
friend
do.
have sadly suffer from the same thing. You're a person who actually wants to do good and you want to be of service. And I don't think you're ever going to retire. I think you're going to probably constantly find some other thing where you could actually do some good.
But
It's
there's
really
always
a
voter
pleasure to meet you.
registration.
Well, yeah, I mean, I get it totally. I know people that basically start with that. It's if it's in your blood, if you have a servant's heart that way, it's very difficult to not basically get yourself maybe in trouble sometimes trying to help situations, right?
Or
And
good trouble,
and
right? That's what John Lewis called it.
what is it?
Oh, the late great John Lewis, he called it getting into good trouble.
Yes, getting into good trouble. I like that too. But it's very interesting, and I'm not. I mean, when you talk about homeless, when you talk about e-bikes, when you're talking about stuff, especially with coastal communities, it's not necessarily even limited to our to Newport Beach. And you would think, since we all have similar problems, if we got around the table and actually talked about them, we could maybe come up with a common solution versus having just siloed conversations in our silos of power and influence and money, and basically actually reach out to other people, because more minds are on the table. The likelihood is you're going to come up with better answers. Maybe you'll come up with something that's universally more applicable, and maybe you'll actually save some money in the process because you're not all spending money on consultants individually in every city to basically give you a white paper on what cannot be done.
Right. Yeah, no, and I'm very eager for the opportunity to have a seat at the table, because I do think that I would bring a lot of fresh ideas and new perspectives that might not have someone to be a champion for if I don't have that opportunity to represent those views.
How has it been for you on the campaign? If you've been canvassing, probably you probably know a lot of people that are in your community to begin with, the nature of the community in Corona Del Mar, and the fact that your family has a prominent business that's like literally right there,
Yeah.
right, billboard right as you turn on MacArthur. But how's it been? How's the experience been? Tell me.
Well, it's been very rewarding for me personally. There's been a lot of personal growth that I've experienced during the campaign. As far as the reception, I think that there's a lot of people who are excited to see a young person running for office, to see someone who's interested in serving their community, who's been doing that for the last 8 years professionally and for a long period as a community volunteer. But I think that there are a lot of people who are really just interested in solving the local issues. They don't really care if I'm a Democrat or a Republican. They want to know that I'm a problem solver. And that's
Yep.
how I'm looking at my campaign. I steal a quote from our former mayor, Keith Curry. He says, "There's no Democratic or Republican way to pave a road." And that's going to be my mindset if I am elected to city council. I'm only interested in trying to do what's in the best interest of everyone in the city, not trying to appease one base of political voters over the other.
How has it been for, because some of those communities like Corona del Mar, some of the communities like in San Clemente or like Laguna Woods we talk about all the time, you have sort of an older population, and definitely Orange County is aging for sure, right? So
Yes.
how is the fact that you you definitely don't sound your age, I'll tell you that, right? But I think that's probably been your case most of your life. And what has that been? What's that been like? Like, has there been a positive and a negative as being a young man that's basically in this role? Like, 'cause you don't usually see people necessarily doing that, and you're knocking on doors, right? How has that been?
Sure. Well, when I'm speaking with people going door to door, I don't normally get a warm reception as soon as I tell people that, my family owns Rothschilds. And oh, yeah, the Italian place. Yeah, sure. I love pasta. And I tell them, vote for me, free appetizers. And, just joking with them, of course, just a joke.
Yeah.
But it's actually really easy for me to talk with some of our aging demographics because they are our customers. I've been talking with them since I was 5. So my table side manner has helped me immensely in talking with voters in our community, listening especially to what their concerns are, because most of the time when I'm at the door, I'm trying to listen more than I am trying to speak. Now, if they ask me a question, I'd be more than happy to elaborate, but I'm mostly interested in what the issues they care about are so I can get a better understanding of how to be a good representative for them. And a great example of that is I wasn't even aware that there was a concern in our community about the use of non-organic pesticides that are being used on the playgrounds and on the sports fields, because there are a lot of parents who are concerned about the safety of their kids and a lot of
Sure.
pet owners who are concerned about making sure that they don't have some type of an issue with their pet. So that's one of the issues that I learned about on the campaign trail from going door to door, educated myself about the issue, and I added that to my campaign website. And I think that's been the hallmark of my campaign is learning about different issues, adapting to what the available information is on those issues, and trying to figure out where I stand. Another great example is the mooring rates in the harbor. I'm not a boat owner myself. I've never owned a boat, and I'm too far away from the coast. So I didn't know what a mooring was until I started running for office. But now I understand it backwards and forwards. I went and spoke with our harbor master, and he explained a long history of the mooring rate issue to me.
Right.
And so I've been able to learn a lot from the community, from our public officials, from our local leaders, and also just from people at the door who are sharing their 2 cents. And that's where I'm
Well,
learning.
you're exhibiting curiosity, and you're exhibiting the desire and willingness to educate yourself and get informed, and those are never bad characteristics. What, for people that don't know, Miles, what is District 7? What is the boundaries of District 7?
Sure. So District 7, that covers Newport Coast, Spyglass Hill, and Crystal Cove. But to clarify, everyone in Newport Beach is voting for every city council candidate. So some cities have a system where you can only vote for the representative who's going to represent your district. So you would have to live in District 7 to vote for District 7 representative. Newport Beach does not have that system. Every single resident in Newport Beach votes for every single city council candidate, regardless of which district they are running for.
You just educated me on something too, because I mean that's been a fascinating reality too, with talking to people from different cities. Every city, when it comes to district, even the definition of how they go about doing it is different.
Yeah.
Irvine has a vote for mayor separate from vote for city council, but now they're rolling out districts. The San Clemente has districts rolling out. We were at large, but then we're going to have a mayor separate thing coming up, and it's only going to be for 2 years. Like, it's fascinating. Just because somebody is district doesn't mean that every city is dealing with districts the same way. This is fascinating. I mean, it almost sounds counterintuitive to basically be representing a district, but then basically everybody in the whole town basically votes. Because when you said mooring, and you said harbor patrol. I'm thinking, what's the boundaries of this district?
Right. Yeah, no, it's a fair question. I understand a lot of people aren't fully aware of what that system is, and I've had to make sure that people are clear on that when I'm talking with people at the door. I'll be going over and speaking with people on Balboa Island, and they ask me, "Well, why are you here? I'm not
Right.
going to be able to vote for you," and I'll have to clarify. It's like, no, actually, you've been misinformed. That's not the case.
Yeah, and this is a shout out to all these cities, especially ones that are starting to roll out the district thing, including starting with my city of San Clemente. You guys need to educate the community. You need to let them know what this district thing is. It's like you're trying to introduce a new form of food to somebody, and basically they have no clue what it is. You got to educate them. You got to get them up, and they can't just basically be looking for, like, hey, I'm looking for Miles, for example, but then I get my ballot and Miles' name is not on the ballot because he's not really the one running in my district. In this case, obviously he is for the whole city, but you got city managers, city staff, city people, like, don't, take one of those lousy flyers that come out in the slates during election season and just send me a map and educate me, get me up to speed, because you can't be just surprised the minute I have this thing and I don't know why is that person whose yard sign is down the street, I don't have him on my ballot. So thanks again for bringing awareness to that, because I think it is super important as we transition this, and the state is putting pressure on cities to basically district for representation purposes, and for whatever number of reasons they may want a district. Miles, what else? Because we got a couple of minutes here, and I want to point out to everybody who's listening, Miles's website is right behind me, milesfornewport.com. So you definitely need to know this young man and get to know him, because I don't think he's going anywhere soon. He's running for office. Hopefully he'll get in, but I don't think he's going to stop being of service to his community. And I can't wait to see what you do next. Seriously, dude. What
Thanks.
else before we go do you want to bring awareness to?
Sure. Well, just first, thanks for saying so. And you're absolutely right. Win or lose, I'm going to stay involved in politics. I've chosen public service as my career path, something I'm very proud to do. It's very rewarding for me personally. So, win or lose, I'm going to stay. But the other issue that you're asking about, what I would like to bring attention to, is the noise pollution issue for all of the people who are living under and nearby the flight path from John Wayne Airport.
Okay.
It starts at about 7 in the morning, goes until about 10 in the evening, and it's very loud and very disrupting for the people who are living in that area of the city. And what we need to do is try to require these airlines to take off at a steeper altitude climb and fly slower over the flight path. Because right now, there are not requirements, there are not regulations in place that are preventing these airlines from taking off low and fast, which is very loud and very disrupting for the peace of mind of people in the flight path area. So it's on somewhat of an honor system basis currently. And what we need,
Wasn't there ordinances originally when the airport first opened? I mean, when I say first opened, like when they did the whole renovation on the airport and it expanded, wasn't there regulations before, Miles?
so for the airport expansion, yes, there were regulations, but that's expanding the runway. So this is somewhat of a separate issue from that. This is about the takeoff procedure specifically.
No. I know. I'm talking about takeoff procedures. I remember,
Okay.
and I'm not talking about the most recent expansion. When I first moved to Orange County,
Yeah.
the statue of John Wayne was basically sitting outside the terminal. The terminal was very small. The original airport building was very small.
Yeah.
They then built the current building with the terminals that were there, and then that most recently they expanded and added another terminal. When that first modern design went in, I could have sworn that part of almost the grievance was that the planes had to take off at a steep angle. I don't know about the speed. So it's actually kind of surprises me to hear that, and or maybe it was always on an honor system. I don't know.
Well, this is one of those areas that I'm not an expert on. I explain my background is sociology and politics. So if some
I'm
of the
sure you'll go
information,
look it up now. I mean,
yeah, well,
yeah.
I try to be as accurate as I can be, and this is
Yeah, I
what I've
appreciate that.
heard.
So what is what so the idea there is to basically make it sort of almost mandated that this is the procedure.
Yes, from what I've heard from the people who are most concerned about this issue, who have
Yeah,
lived on the flight path for decades, is that we need to have the FAA step in and impose these and enforce these regulations that are currently existing from the FAA, that are federal regulations on noise pollution levels. And that right now the current levels of these airplanes, the noise pollution that they're producing is above the level of noise pollution that these regulations are trying to limit.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
So it's
so
it's
right
more of an
now,
enforcement of maybe regulations that are already in place.
yes,
But yeah, and then that flight path for people that are not aware of it, that flight path goes over very affluent neighborhoods. I mean, it's not we're not talking about industrial or light industrial. This is high-end residential that they're going over.
yes, yes, it
Okay,
is, and it can be heard from a wide area outside of just right directly under the flight path. So it's actually a
okay.
much wider issue affecting more residents than people actually see, because you only
Right.
see
And
the
and
airplane going.
as
Yeah,
there's a more increase of traffic and more demands and all this stuff, it becomes more of an important issue to address.
exactly.
Miles, we're running out of time, man. I could talk to you for hours. I appreciate you taking the time, seriously.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for having me be your final guest to end off the series. And I really hope that
You literally, I mean, every candidate is a wonderful experience for me, actually, because I do this because I really want to sit down and actually get to know people. And if this byproduct is it informs other people, we've tried to talk to candidates about things that are on their platform. We've also tried to talk about regional stuff more and more as we got started into this year. It wasn't intentional. It just became an organic thing. We need people that are basically going to look for things that are more regional solutions. They're going to reach across literally the city boundaries, that are going to basically think about sustainable solutions that are long-term lasting, because this is our legacy. And if we're kicking the can down the road, then we're basically passing on an inheritance that's really not fair to the next people that have to deal with it. So
couldn't agree
thank you
more.
very, very much for stepping out and being of service and wanting to basically do this. Um, and please stay in touch. Seriously, I mean it.
Thanks, Rad. Thank you, Rad. Thank you, Paul, for having me. Really do appreciate it. And if anyone is interested in learning more, I would warmly encourage you to visit my website at miles4newport.com. You can also send me an email. All my contact information is there. Please feel free to reach out if you have any comments or questions.
I'll tell you one thing. I'll leave you with this as we end, right? Paul mentioned it, and I am a big fan of jazz, and I am really disappointed that we only have one place down in Laguna that I can go listen to live jazz. And get out, go vote. Thanks.